Question 5. Database. A database containing passengers' flight details has been created. Open the 5 flights database. Always click Enable Content, please. 5.1. Open the Table Passengers table in Design View and do the following. So you just right-click and open. 5.1.1. Apply a database feature on the passenger ID field to ensure that duplicate records cannot be entered. Okay, passenger ID. So there's 2 ways you can do this. The one way is to apply indexed no duplicates. Yes, no duplicates, but that's already done. So the safest way is just to insert a primary key. 5.1.2. Ensure that the passenger name field will never be left empty. So it can't be left empty, so it is required. Yes. I just double clicked there and then it swaps between the different options in the drop down. 5.1.3. Change the format of the passenger surname field to appear in capital letters. All right, now this is an important one, people. You keep on getting this wrong. It's the format of the passenger surname field. It's not how people should enter the data. It's just how the data should display. So we don't put it in input mask, passenger surname. It's just the format one where we put a greater than, right? And then you'll see, I don't know if there's any data here. There's no data, so we can't check it. But if you put it in input mask, then you still have to add in what characters need to be entered, that there has to be a letter and then like so many required letters and so many optional letters and that kind of thing. Whereas if it's in format, you just say, it's literally just saying that all the letters will automatically be displayed in capital letters. That's it. Okay. So we just want to change the format, not how it should be entered. 5.1.4. Create an input mask for the flight number field for users to enter data in the following format. Now, let's just quickly go have a look at the input mask character sheet. All right. So you'll see these all work in pairs. So 0 and 9 is a pair. These allow digits. The first one is not allowed. The first one is required. The second one is not required. So required, optional. This one allows spaces as well, plus and minus signs as well, but it's not really part of the pair. The L and the question mark that's the next pair. Letters that are required or optional. The capital A and the small a, next pair. Letter or digit, so that means a letter or a number. Required or optional. An and sign, ampersand, or a C. Any character or a space required versus optional. And then you've got your decimal placeholders, switch to lowercase, switch to uppercase, exclamation mark, which switches it from left to right, and a backslash, which causes the character that follows to be displayed as the literal character. You can also use double quotation marks for that. Right, so if we go back up, let's go have a look now. It says 3 compulsory capital letters. So we saw a letter is a capital L. Okay, that, and this should be, let's just double check where it should be. It should be in create an input mask for the flight number field. If you do it in the wrong field, people, they don't mark it. You literally get 0 because they're not going to look through all the different fields and all the different properties where you put it. So you have to put it in the right field, in the right property, otherwise you get 0. Okay, so 3 L's. That gives us 3 compulsory letters. to make it 3 capital letters, we put in a single switch. The switch makes it all capital letters. We don't have to put one in front of each letter. Everything will now be capital letters until we switch it back. Now, followed by the @ sign. Okay, so I'm just going to type in an @ sign, and I'll show you the other option now. Okay, just keep it in the back of your mind. 2 required digits. Okay, so a digit is a number. Required is compulsory. Do you see what it did? It put the backslash in automatically. So the other option would have been to put in double quotation marks by hand. Those are the 2 options. But whatever you put the double quotation marks around is what's going to show literally. So you can't put double quotation marks around the whole input mask. Otherwise, the entire input mask is what's going to show literally. Okay, so 2 compulsory digits. 0, 0. So now they have to enter numbers in those 2 positions. And next, 1 compulsory letter or digit. Okay, I've got to double check. I think that's an A. Letter or digit, entry required. It's a capital A, not a small a. Okay. So, capital A. There you go. So that's the final thing. Now, let me just quickly go show you this. We're not going to test the whole thing, but if I click here, you'll see the @ is what already displays there, because that's the one that has the backslash in front of it. Now, some people make this mistake, and they put double quotation marks around everything. Now, see what happens. Do you see the whole input mask is shown? So that's completely wrong. Okay, you can't do that. It must just be around the digit or the letter or the symbol or whatever it is that's supposed to literally show. So that just that one is already there. Okay, and then everything else will just allow the type of characters that you've specified there. And even if I type in small letters, it automatically makes it capital letters. And if I try to put in letters, it doesn't allow. It has to be numbers. And then the last one can be a letter or a number. See? Right. I'm just gonna, if you're busy testing something and you want to go back, just undo until the pencil is gone. And then you can go back. 5.1.5. Oh, this was a difficult one with a fine little detail that lots of people missed. It said, due to special circumstances, airlines have decided that flights can only be booked until 30 April 2022. Ensure that the departure date field will assist the user to only enter data from the current date until the last allowed booking date. Okay, so if they say current date, then you can't use today's date. Then you have to use a function for today's date. Okay, so we're in the departure date field. The validation rule is what we're going to use because that's what we use to limit the entries in the field. Not the type of data that people can enter, but the actual values that they can enter. So it has to be, you can type it in either as this, between the date, which is the current date, and I think they said the 30th of April. I'm just going to type it like this and then I'll double check the date. 2022. Just double check. 30 April 2022. Yes. Okay. Now, I prefer typing it in as short text, a short date. That's usually the way it works the best, and then it puts hashtags around it automatically. The moment it puts the hashtags around it automatically, then I know Access recognized it as a date. Now, you'll see that I actually placed extra emphasis on this assist the user. There's a fourth mark. The fourth mark is actually for the validation text because you have to assist the user. So the assist the user will be only enter dates between today and end of April 2022. The other option for this would have been, I'm not going to delete everything. I'm just going to say greater than or equal to and less than or equal to. Okay, so that's the other way you can type it. You cannot say or, because otherwise any date on earth will be allowable, because then it's literally like going into opposite direction. Anything from today's date to infinity is allowable. Anything from the 30th of April 2022 and anything into the past is allowable. Either or, both are correct. So that's not an option. We have to say and. And you can't do a little stripe. A little stripe does nothing. You can't say that. That's not how you say from this date to that date. We can't say from this date to that date. You have to say and, because we're actually putting in two different validation rules. That's why we use the and. We use one rule and another rule. And both of these rules have to be true, not just one. 5.1.6. Ensure that the arrival date field has an appropriate data type. Arrival date field needs to have an appropriate data type. That's quite a giveaway. It should be date and time. Right. Save, and I'm quite sure we have to close the table now. Let's just double check. I think we're done. Yes, save and close the table. Save and close the table. 5.2. Edit the Form 5.2 form to appear as shown in the example below. Notes. The airline field uses the table SA Airlines as the source. The picture 5 SAA PNG is found in your exam folder. Save and close the form for 7 marks. All right, let's have a look at what we can all see on here. Okay, I'm going to leave this open while I work on it. And I'm going to open it like that. And let's see. Okay, so I've got all the fields underneath one another. And I need to obviously change them. So I'm going to go to Design View. And the first thing I'm going to do you see these are way smaller because passenger ID, passenger surname, it's almost as long as passenger surname. So I'm just going to select all of these fields. I just click and drag my mouse over it and I'm just going to make them way smaller. I don't know why they are so wide at the bottom as well. I'm just going to make them narrower as well. I don't think that counts as a mark, but making them smaller was definitely a mark. Okay, so that was the first thing. So we want passenger ID, name, surname, airport departure, airline on the one side, and then the other side, just make this a little bit wider, we want the other three. So I'll just put those three there. Okay, just put them down a little bit. They don't mark that strict, but you can just make them look relatively okay. It's quite difficult to see with all these, with the grid there, but anyway. Right, now we have to put the picture in. So I am on the design tab. It's on controls, but if I make it bigger, you'll see, there you go. So it's never this insert image because this insert image doesn't allow all the file types. So use this one, that's the safer one. Insert image. And I'm going to click and drag it so that it is the right size, and then it's going to ask me what picture to use. That one. Fantastic. Now you'll see the other thing that I see there. It said the airline field uses the table SA Airlines as the source. So this is the one. Not the label, the field. This side is the field. So I'm going to open the property sheet. So the text box is the field, the label is the label. Right, so this is the side that needs to use table SA Airlines as the source. So the first thing I need to do is change it to a combo box. So I'm going to right click, change to combo box. Combo box, data tab. The row source type is already table query by default. And now I just need to choose what table or query. Is the table SA Airlines. Okay, we can go test that just now. There's just one last thing we need to do. Do you see this here at the bottom? 16 March 2021 and the time. So that looks like a date and time to me. Now, it's never, ever, ever. Why would you put in an actual date and time? Like the static date and time. That would obviously be a field, right? So, and if it's so low, I wouldn't put in the labels or the text boxes here. I would actually put it in the footer. So I'm going to open up the footer and I'm going to use this option, header and footer, date and time. Click. I want the date and the time. They said the format doesn't actually matter, so they didn't mark that. That's fine, but you could change it here to different formats. I'm going to leave it just like that. And then you see what it does is it puts it in the top. So then you can literally just click it and drag it down. When you're dragging, just pay attention. You can drag on the orange, but you can't drag on the gray boxes. Then it doesn't allow you to drag it down. All right, so let's see. There you go. It's got the date and it's got the time. It's got that. And let's see if the airlines work. Fantastic. Right. Save and close. 5.3. Open the query 5.3 query in design view. Display the records of the airports that use airfields and which have more than 20 aircrafts. Okay, now the Afrikaans was a bit difficult because you don't necessarily know what this means. Vertoon die rekords van die lughawens wat gebruik maak van vliegvelde en wat meer as 20 vliegtuie het. Wat is 'n vliegveld? Okay, so I've got sympathy for you who don't know what a vliegveld is, but you have the English to your available to you, number one, and number two, you can see it counts 3 marks. You were supposed to actually figure out something else is up here. I can't just do one thing, meer as 20 vliegtuie. I can't just do more than 20 aircrafts for 3 marks. So let's have a look at what we were supposed to do here. So it's query 5.3. So we're looking for the airfields. Do you see here it says airfield? So I'm going to copy that actually. And it's here under airport name, and it actually contains the word airfield. So I've put a star in front of airfield because it looked like that was the end. There we've got all the airfields, and it has to have more than 20 aircraft. Let's just double check that. It's more than 20 aircraft. It's not 20 aircraft and more, so it doesn't include the 20. So it's more than 20, more than 20. Oh, more than 20. So it's on the same row. Save. And there you go. Right, more than 20. 5.4. Open the query 5.4 query in design view. Modify the query so that it displays the total number of aircrafts per province. So per province, we want to know the total number of aircraft. So it has to actually count all the Northern Cape, all the Eastern Cape, all the Gauteng, and sum these together. So to do that, we have to switch on totals. The province must be grouped because we want all the Northern Cape together, all the Gauteng together, all the Eastern Cape together, and we want the aircrafts to be summed, hey? And there you go. Save and close. 5.5. Open query 5.5 query in design view. Airports need to budget 35 Rand per seat for maintenance of an aircraft. Insert a new calculated field called total budget to determine the total amount that should be budgeted for. Ensure the field displays in South African currency. Okay, I'm going to show you 2 ways of doing this. So here we've got the total seats. It's got nothing to do with how many aircraft there are because we don't know how many seats each aircraft has. Okay, so the total seats is all we're going to use. So the first way of doing this would be to type it in by hand. So we're going to make this bigger. The field name they told us would be, let's just double check again, total budget. Total budget, semicolon, and we have to use total total seats times 35. And if I click away, you'll see it's actually put the brackets, square brackets around total seats automatically because it picks up that that's a field. So that's the one way of doing it. I'll show you the formatting now. The other way of doing it is to just click in the field, the open field, and use your builder. Then you can choose total seats times 35. And you'll notice that I didn't put an R in front of the 35 because we're going to format this afterwards. Okay, so what that does is it puts a field name called expression 1 there. And we need to change that because we don't want it called expression 1. We want it called total budget. See, and now we want it formatted as South African currency. So then we go to property sheet, click on this field and change the format to currency. The other place you could do this, I think, is somewhere here. There might be a format one. No, that's just on tables, I think, has that, but they're not on queries. Okay, so that is total budget. And that's what the final one looks like. It has to show. Okay. Save and close. 5.6. Open the report RPT 56 in design view. Add the necessary grouping. Do you notice that? It doesn't say replace, because so you didn't get a mark if you just changed the grouping that was there. Add the necessary grouping and calculate the total seats available below each province. Okay, the English said below each province. In Afrikaans, it just said voeg die nodige groepering by en bereken die totale sitplekke beskikbaar per provinsie. So I didn't, for Afrikaans, I didn't penalize if you didn't do it underneath each province, but if you actually only had the English paper, you were supposed to specifically do it in the province footer. So that's how I'm going to show it to you. Okay, so we're going to add the necessary grouping. Let's see what grouping we already have. So we already have grouping on the airport type. So we need to add grouping on the province. So I'm going to go to design view. I don't like doing grouping in design view because then you have to move around fields manually. I prefer doing grouping in layout view because then I can just go right click, group on province, and it moves it up automatically. Do you see what happened there? Now, so far, in most papers, they don't actually allocate a mark for moving up the text box from the detail section up into the province header. They don't actually allocate a mark for that. You don't get penalized if you didn't do that, but there has been a paper or two when they've actually given you a screenshot of what it should look like where they do actually penalize you. So it's good to know to do it in the layout view instead. Okay, so, and I don't know why so many people just go and do this. Why do you open up the detail view? All you're doing is making massive spaces between the records. Please don't do that. Let's change it back. Okay, then they said we need to calculate the total seats available below each province. So we need to give province a footer. So I'm going to say with a footer section, and then I'm going to calculate the total seats available. Now, this is the difficult thing. The seats aren't available in the report. So what do? Now, if I click on add existing fields, you'll see the total seats field is available in whatever this report is based on. I don't have to actually add the field to be able to use it in a calculation. I can, but I don't have to. I just need to know what the field is called and how it's spelled. So I can actually use my text box. Oh, come on, there you go. And I can say equals sum. And I just need to spell it exactly like that. Total seats. And you'll see I used my round brackets for sum. And Access is kind enough to put in the square brackets around my field name for me. as long as there aren't any spaces in the field name. So I've summed the total seats, even though the field isn't in the report, the field is in the source of the report. So whatever table or query it was based on, it's there. So that's why I was able to use it. And they didn't specify anything for the label, but I'll just put it in there anyway. Total seats. Let's have a look. There you go. Total seats for Eastern Cape. There you go. And that's how it carries on. Let's double check. Yes, total seats available below each province. That's it. Save and close the 5 flights database. Save and close.